What's up, my dudes? This is the thumb pump guide to MX Simulator. So this video is about to crack me up right here, but just when you thought there was no more layers to MX Simulator, you get about 20 laps deep in a race, and then all of a sudden your thumbs feel like what your arms feel like in real life when you have arm pumps. So motherfuckers don't get it. They just don't understand, man. This thumb pump shit is real, bro. Like, it is no joke. I mean, it is actually a critical part to main events and longer races when it comes to pro racing. I'm not even exaggerating that at all. Like, it's probably half of the battle, dude. Just being able to hang on to the controller. And I don't know what all it is that goes into it to cause it, but it is identical to arm pump. I mean, you couldn't get it any closer if you tried. Everything about it is the same. You know, it's not like a pain. It's just kind of like it's like your whole hand just cramps. It's almost more of like a hand pump than it is a thumb pump, quote unquote. But thumb pump is just kind of the word everybody uses for it. So, but I mean, you know, it's your whole hand starts cramping up, and you can't squeeze the triggers as good. You can't do anything as good. Your hand actually starts to go numb, and you will do anything to relieve that when you're in a pro race, because you're not just going to stop on the track and rest, you know? So, I mean, you'll be taking your hand off of the controller over the triples. It's so funny how close it is to real life. You know, you're actually trying to fight the thumb pump in the middle of the race like you would arm pump. So, but there is a physical side to MX Simulator. I know some people just won't believe that ever, but I'm telling you, if you've never raced in a main event pro race or like a 30-minute plus 2 moto and actually been able to stay on the bike the whole race, then you just wouldn't understand. You wouldn't understand at all, because nothing else comes close to simulating that. And if you go out there and, you know, ride, let's just say 20 laps just in a random server or something like that, and let's say you don't crash, well, you still don't have the push you kind of style of a pro race. You know, in a pro race, you're going as hard as you can go the whole time, and you know, there's just no time to rest whatsoever. And I think most of the people that are more like beginners or intermediate riders, they're going to crash, you know, 2 or 3 times in a 20-lap race. So they have time to actually rest their hands a little bit. They have you know, those couple of split-second moments where they can rest, because they don't sit there and just ride 20 laps as hard as they can go and never crash. So that's where, like, actually getting into the pro consistent realm really changes how the arm pump hits you, you know? And when you're running in a higher spot in a position, and you haven't crashed, and you're running up with the front pack, and it catches up to you, dude. I mean, and it seems like the more nervous you are, the worse it is too. It's like there's just not enough blood flow going or something. But and maybe you're hanging on tighter to the controller. I mean, it's just, everything about it is, it's so identical to arm pump. It's actually hilarious. I mean, every comparison you could make with arm pump is the exact comparison you could make to thumb pump. So this is kind of a guide video here. I was going to tell you guys kind of what you can do to fight against it, but like I was saying, most beginners and amateurs don't even experience it because they can't even run 20 laps without crashing, you know? So they never get that feeling of like just sitting there riding the bike for 30 minutes straight with literally no rest whatsoever. So, until you get to that point, you just wouldn't understand how important this video would be to somebody. But once you get to that point, then it'll make a whole lot more sense to you. But it's just kind of, I don't know. It's hard to explain. I mean, some people will think, oh, no, Spencer, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? It's a video game. There's nothing physical to it. But what I will tell them is go out there and race in 2 30-minute plus 2 lap motos on a motocross track in a pro race. And if you never hit the ground, then you can say that to me. You know, you have the right to say that to me. And I promise you, you won't act like there is no thumb pump in this game, because there is thumb pump in this game, and you'll be feeling it so real it ain't even funny. And that's where, like, playing the game every day, I think, really helps. And I mean every day. like every day, not just every other day, every day, bro. That part of it, I think, really helps with thumb pump, and really just racing is going to help eliminate a lot of that like nervousness you'll get even online races in like O3 and stuff like that. I know it's not a pro race, but it's still just the racing experience. Even if you're not racing against a bunch of fast people, there's just a totally different feeling doing that than there is just hopping on a track by yourself and practicing. Even though that can help you, and a lot of people like to do 20 lap races by themselves or whatever, however long the main events are going to be. And I've kind of dabbled around with a lot of different things, but there's just something about just racing, man. I don't know. There's nothing that has helped me more in this game than racing in every aspect of it. Like, seems like when I'll go on there and just race people, even if I'm lapping everybody on a online server or something like that, it's still just the overall feeling you get. It just makes it to where when you do line up for that pro race, you've done it a million times already. So it's getting on that start line and actually taking off with everybody and going into that first corner where everybody's just jammed up and jacked up. So you get a lot more experience with things like that, and just racing close by people, so that when you do get in a pro race and you get a good start or something like that, you don't start freaking out and kind of losing your focus a little bit, because that's very easy to do. You start thinking about the race more than just how fast you're going. You start thinking more about like who's right behind you, where you're at position wise, and you don't focus forward, which is a very important thing too. But with thumb pump, how are you going to work out your fingers? I mean, you really can't do that. They got those little squeezing things for arm pump. I don't even know if that would really help thumb pump, but like I'm saying, it's not your fingers that are cramping, it's your hand. And there's really no way to exercise your hand. The only way to really do that is to play the game and race and be in those tense racing situations where you're side by side with somebody and you're hanging on to the controller super tight and you're hitting all these buttons 1,000 miles an hour fast. And I think that's what is going to help thumb pump more than anything else could even possibly help it, So that's kind of my opinion on it. I don't really know any other way to help it other than racing on this game every single day. And I mean, not only will it help thumb pump, but it'll help just overall skill as well. But I mean, as far as like running long races and stuff like that can definitely give you a whole different experience, a whole different feeling, because when you first get in a pro race, I mean, up until that point, you've probably never rode like 20 laps straight or whatever, or 20 minutes plus one lap or whatever it is. You've never probably done that before you've actually done it in a pro race. So that's like a really new experience, and that's what actually pays your points out. That's what actually is your position. No one gives a shit what you got in the heat race. There's all these heat race heroes, and you could even call me like a heat race hero or whatever, but I know that heat races don't mean a damn thing, and semis don't mean anything, and LCQs are just fun to watch people crash. And I mean, it really comes down to the main event. I mean, that is your position. So if you can't run those long races strong and those 20 laps, especially when you get to motocross, that's when you really feel the thumb pump and the hand cramps and those 30-minute plus 2 laps, and you're constantly just beating, banging, the screen's bouncing everywhere, and you're passing 40 people. It's that roughness will get you when it comes to thumb pump. I mean, you'll get it on a supercross track for sure if you're running 20 laps straight and you never fall down and you're running it pretty hard. You'll definitely feel it, and that's another big difference, is the intensity difference between an amateur and a like top 5 pro is drastic. Even though their lap times may not seem that different, they're just the overall intensity of it and how much more focus it takes and how much more just, you're wide open every corner, just hitting the whoops as hard as you can, getting squirrely every other lap, but you're so used to getting squirrely that it's not even squirrely anymore. Once you get to that point, that's where the arm pump, I think, really initiates itself, because you're having to hang on tighter, whereas like even though an amateur may be running right there, maybe like a 2 or 3 seconds slower, so it doesn't seem like that much more, but it just seems like when you put that intensity level on it and run that intensity level for a whole main event, that's where the physical side of MX Simulator really comes into play. And, the motocross tracks, it just amplifies it with the roughness and stuff like that. And when you start getting ruts and you really got to focus on all that, it takes it to another level. But yeah, man, I really just wanted to talk about Thumb Pump in this video. This is the Nicholas Sandbox old school. This is like one of their first tracks right here. If some of you guys didn't know about it or whatever, you can go check that out. This is like, when they first got into it, and I mean, they've been making sick tracks from day one, dude. But Thumb Pump is real. Don't believe these idiots that tell you it's not. I'm telling you right now, it is very real, and it'll kill your race. A lot of people don't understand this, but if you get Thumb Pump at the wrong time, all it takes is one crash and you're going to the back, basically. So if you have, if you can't feel the controller and your hands are numb, it's going to be real hard to stay on that bike. And it gets to that extreme point. It's not just like your thumbs get a little bit cramped and it's like, oh yeah, it's kind of like playing Call of Duty for like 8 hours straight. It's not like that. I'm telling you, it's so bad that, like, you will do anything you can just to take your hand off for a split second. When I say people take their hand off over a triple, I mean, how long are you over a triple? Like 1.25 seconds? I mean, you need just that much time to get just that little bit of relief. It gets that bad at times with Thumb Pump. I shit you not, dude. It's just as bad as Arm Pump ever was on a real dirt bike. I mean, it's identical. So yeah, you got to play the game a lot to actually combat that, but it's a lot different from real life, like I was saying, in the sense of, like in real life, as a beginner, you'll get arm pump, probably worse than you would as a pro, but like with MX Simulator, you're not really going to get thumb pump as a beginner because you don't run enough laps to ever really initiate it or experience it. So it's kind of a shocker when you get to the pro races and you're like, oh shit, there's actually a physical side to this game. But yeah, this is just kind of a fair warning to some of you guys out there that have never experienced it. Go out there and try to run you some long races and hop on some tracks with some gnarly roughness and try to like really go fast on it without crashing at all, and you'll start feeling what I'm talking about here. But so I want to let you guys know that I have all of my different playlists on my front page, whether it be game specific playlist or series specific playlist. So if you're looking for any particular game or particular series that you want to watch, I have it all laid out there in a pretty organized manner on my front page. There is a link in the description to donate to me if you want to support me. And if you can't or you just don't want to, I totally understand. That's why it's completely optional. But I will be listing my top 10 donators at the end of every single future video, and I will shout out every new donator at the end of a video, even if they're not top 10. And my email address is spencerturley@live.com, no space, no capital. And I do accept sponsorship offers. And you guys should also follow me on Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, PlayStation Network, Xbox Live, Steam, all that different stuff at Spencer Turley, no space, no capital. So anyways, I appreciate you guys watching the videos. Later, dudes.